Hey, my loves, happy Wednesday. It's funny, I get asked the same questions sometimes, but it's always in different ways. And it's interesting because people ask me the same question in different ways, hoping to be able to get a different answer, not understanding that the answer is always going to be the same thing. So I woke up to a DM today as someone asked me about the importance of initiation. But the way they worded it was interesting. They tried to have a discussion about the importance and if initiation is still necessary in modern day. And y'all, I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face until y'all start to eventually get it. When it comes to African traditional religions, when it comes to African diasporic practices, initiation is key. It takes a community. It takes a village. A village to raise a child. It takes a community to birth a new priest or practitioner in said practice. It doesn't just happen overnight. On top of the years of study that you must go through to even be proficient, you don't just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're a practitioner of an ATR or an African diaspora practice. It doesn't work that way. Y'all need to understand that initiation is very important. That process is deeply important. There's no way around it and no bypassing it. If it was good enough for your ancestors, what means it's any different for you?
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Greetings and salutations, one and all. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Powered by, sponsored by, supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. We continue to invite you, to welcome you to become a part of something extraordinary and join New Orleans International Voodoo Day by visiting our website for information and coming updates at www.voodooday.org. Again, that's www.vodouday.org. We certainly appreciate your participation, your support, your sponsorship, your donations, your love and promotion of this event. We ask that you take the time to like, share, subscribe to this platform, and spread the word that we are sharing and telling the story of authentic voodoo at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, weeknights, here on a social media platform near you. We want to continue our conversation regarding divination, ritual work, magic, as it relates to not just our present existence, but its roots and beginnings, particularly in Jamaica, between, I believe we're looking at 1728 to 1824. And this has been an ongoing conversation. And we just advance a little bit more each night that we have this powerful podcast. And by tracing three particular instances of rebellion that featured Obia, this conversation aims to cast light upon that shift in mentality among both groups, the oppressors and the oppressed, and the production of a new sort of magical knowledge through the combination of cultures that took place uniquely in Jamaica, known today as Obia. A similar pattern was taken for voodoo with four O's and subsequently hoodoo here in the southern US. The first documented use of the term obia by Europeans in Jamaica was in the early 18th century in connection with Queen Nanny of the Maroons. Nanny was a leader of the First Maroon War, which began immediately after the British capture of Jamaica in 1665, making it the first major revolt in the island's British history. Queen Nanny and the origins of Jamaican obia is focused on the latter decades of the war and explores how Nanny and the Maroons established a precedent for a successful result that relied in part on the manipulation of the unseen world. And through Nanny's story, Maroons, enslaved Africans, and British planters came to see obia as some collection of African derived rituals that were originally concerned with healing and divination, but grew to include rituals for warfare, ones that could defeat the British. The growing British fixation on African spirituality in the colonies is even more evident by Chapter 3, Obia Laws and the Aftermath of Tacky's Revolt. In 1760 and 1761, Tacky and Apongo began a much shorter lived but enormously destructive series of revolts aimed at turning the whole of Jamaica into an independent African state. And despite the relatively minor role of Obia men and women in Tacky's revolt compared to other rebellions, it was in response to these uprisings that the British banned the practice of obia for the first time in the Caribbean. This chapter explores how the leaders of the revolt took inspiration from Queen Nanny, how the obia legislation reflected fears among British planters and administrators about the supernatural, and how Tacky's revolt marked a turning point in how British and American observers view the relationship between obia and rebellion, between hoodoo and revolution. Chapter 4, Obia Jack and the 1823 Boxing Day Conspiracy, deals with the last major revolt before emancipation, in which an obia man or woman held a central leadership role, and nearly the last in which colonial authorities emphasized the importance of sacred oaths. Although the rebellion lasted for only days, detailed trial records capture Jack's alleged obia and frame his actions according to the 1760 obia legislation, guaranteeing his conviction. The chapter the chapter challenges official British beliefs about the supernatural to find a persisting fear in the colonies. The rituals that Jack performed were not fundamentally different from the ones used by Queen Nanny or any other obia practitioner for that matter. However, British and African attitudes toward those rituals changed in response to Obia's continued role in rebellion. Queen Nanny and the origins of Jamaican obia will be the beginning of the next leg of this conversation. And I want to certainly open the mics for my co-hosts, beloved Joshua, Nylan Tanner, Wild Man, First Priest, Initiate, House of the Divine Prince. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for continuing to be present here with us. And Elder Reggie here on the platform. We know as Green Soap, a local practitioner and minister of the faith here in New Orleans, and administrator and co-founder of NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. We certainly welcome your commentary and your coming into the conversation as we continue to move forward. The first documented use of the term obia by Europeans in Jamaica was in a series of letters and personal records kept during the early 18th century in connection with Nanny of the Maroons. Nanny, a Jamaican national hero and the leader of a community of formerly enslaved Africans called the Windward Maroons, was famous among the British and Africans in Jamaica for her tended to argue that the Maroon mastery of guerrilla warfare played a significant role in their success. But many of Nanny's contemporaries attributed her leadership skills and the Maroons' ultimate victory to her Obia power. For British administrators, of course, these letters were derogatory. Colonial sources attacked Nanny in a number of ways, ranging from referring to her as the rebels' old Obia woman, a letter intended to associate Nanny with European witches, to categorizing her as unsexed and more bloodthirsty than Maroon men. However, the Maroons embraced Nanny's Obia and Maroon oral traditions, discuss her feats in great detail. And according to the Maroons, Nanny used her Obia powers to kill British soldiers in Nanny's pot, a boiling pot without a flame below it, that soldiers would lean over and fall in to quickly grow food for her starving forces and to catch bullets and either fire them back or attack the soldiers with a machete. Therefore, historians must not discard her obia outright. Obia was not just a derogatory label, but a tool for healing and a weapon of war recognized by the British, enslaved Africans, and free Maroons. By carefully balancing these three perspectives, this chapter aims to introduce Jamaican ideas about obia by following the first Maroon War. And I believe Sister Toni just came in. Greetings, Queen Mother Toni Val. Thank you for joining us.
Greetings. I was having a problem getting in at first.
Oh, wow.
I'm good now.
Well, we
Hello,
glad.
everyone.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The actual dates for the First Maroon War have been disputed by its contemporaries and historians since it took place. Maroon oral history suggests that the war began around 1655, immediately following the British capture of Jamaica, and spanning approximately 85 years until the British government in Jamaica signed treaties with the Maroons in 1739 and 1740. Orlando Patterson, prominent among scholars who follow this stance, argues that amongst all the revolts prior to 1740 were closely related and cannot meaningfully be separated by each other or from the events of the last 15 years of that period when the revolts reached a dramatic climax. Records from the colonial archives, however, suggest that the war lasted for only about 10 years. Historians have tended to discard this claim because, as Patterson nearly points out, there was nothing from a social cultural perspective to distinguish these climatic final years. They represent only a heightened state of military and political tension that had begun 70 years prior. So we know that our ancestors fought and fought vigorously from the time that they boarded a ship, from the time that they put a foot on the ground in the New World. Again, being mindful, we're reciting dates 40 years prior to the Haitian Revolution. So the idea, the notions of voodoo, hoodoo, obia, conjure being dangerous and particularly a threat and a danger to enslavement was well ingrained long before the Creole Haitian population made its way to the shores of Louisiana and the Mississippi Delta. And so the threat was palatable. The threat was very real, and attempts to beat it down, beat it out of us, lynch it out of us, kill it out of us, deprogram it out of us, only increased 40 years later, with the beginnings of the Bois Caimon ceremonies in Haiti and the subsequent Haitian revolution that followed. And so I still say, until this day, our salvation is ultimately in HER, Aboriginal, traditional religious systems, Aboriginal, African traditional systems and beliefs. As we remember them, as we revive them, as we now reapply them in more modern context, in a more modern era. And so I certainly welcome my co-host to come on into the conversation, Elder Reggie, uh, Brother Joshua, Sister Val. Come on in. All is a blessing.
Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, that on the topic of Obia and revolution and the Maroons, that's I couldn't help but to. I've been doing some reading myself on Hoodoo lately, and the guy by the name of John Horses kept coming up to my mind. And his teacher, a spiritual guide that taught him, Abiaka Hajo, who was born in 1760 and died in 1860. He was known as Sam Jones. He was one of the leaders of the Seminole Wars that happened in Florida. He was born in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, and he was the guide for a lot of, like he was saying, in terms of the resistance of the Maroons in that area, leading the Seminole wars in that area all the way to Mexico. The Muskogee tribes, also the Creek tribes, and throughout. And it actually, I was reading something that actually specifically taught when we spoke of how he actually navigated and what they called him. They actually nicknamed him the Devil back in that day, because he would mask himself and disguise himself amongst American troops, or the troops the colonialists that was coming in, as like a fisherman or just someone he would actually dress in disguise, be around them, gather information, leave, and they wouldn't know he was around or knew he was even doing anything. So in terms of resistance, we utilize many different forms of I guess you want to call masking, being a masking Indian, but masking in that tradition in terms of warfare, and in order to gain intel, in order to understand what's going on, in order to navigate what was coming into the world, their world at that time, that was formed from a different place, to figure out what was going on, to be able to combat what was happening. I found that to be, something that was something that we don't really get to even hear about. This is something that I have to dig deep into a book to actually even see. And I'm surprised. His name is actually spelled Abiaka. That's his first name. And his name comes from a word, a Creek word, which is Abika, and it's said to mean heap at the root. So.
Greetings, Divine Prince. Greetings, Joshua. Great information you brought forward. Greetings, Sister Toni. I'm a latecomer somewhat to the Obia system, so I'm trying to read it to get caught up. I don't have too much to add. I just don't have a background on it. I'll open it up to you, Sister Toni.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Divine Prince was right when he said we fought from the minute we stepped foot in our captivity. We fought, and as he said, They had to scare it out of us, beat it out of us to make us forget over the generations. That was one of the reasons why they didn't want us to read when we were enslaved, because a lot of the books in Master's library held this information. That's how Master knew what was going on around the world without internet and Wi-Fi, and even at that time, very many newspapers. But people did put them in books like diaries and get them across the waters by boat. Then, when we were freed, they still didn't want to educate us properly, because now this information was available to us in libraries that they kept so their people could know. They didn't want us in their libraries to have access to this information. But we gained access, and now more than ever with the internet and Google, we are learning stuff like young Joshua said. He had to dig deep to find that information. Well, imagine how deep you had to dive when you didn't have Google, when you didn't have the internet, when
Yeah.
things weren't at your fingertips as they are today. I
True.
know, and Divine Prince know, because we lugged the books in our backpacks to do the reading. We had the library cards to go to the library to search it out. We wrote in our notebooks on what we needed to know more at. While we were at work, we had 8 hours, 5 days a week of study time, and sometime more if we worked overtime or somebody didn't show up. And now that we have all this information, to find out about all these wars and all these battles we raged, and how strong we really were, how we fought off our oppressor, this new political regime is coming in trying to erase that information by what they call DEI. They want to destroy the books. They want to destroy the internet websites that hold this information. And they have done it to some degree, but they were made to put some back, like with the military. But now you just can't simply go to the category that said Black World War II Marines or Black female or even female in the Army. You have to know their exact name, or you just have to sit there and go through every one until you find the historical Black information. So that was the way they handled the court order to put it back on the military website. So once again, they're trying to not have us know this information. I just did a post on where, since they won't be allowing schools to teach our story, that a lot of churches are starting to have Black history classes for the young students in elementary and middle school and junior high. So now we've reverted back to what our ancestors did. We've seen this before. We know how to do it and what to do it to get around you.
I think it
We
starts
were
in
doing,
home, though.
yeah, and we were
I
doing
think
it
it
in the
starts in
schools.
home, though, for anything.
Yeah, it starts
It
at
should start
home.
there.
It starts at home, but at home, if you can't really, if you don't have the books and you can't find it on the internet, it's kind of hard. A lot of churches have been saving books. Like I told everybody, collect as many books as you can. Go to the used bookstore. Go to the thrift stores. Find any books you can find off of Black history. Save them. Put them in a trunk. Box them up until this regime is over with, and we'll still have that information. Yes, it starts at home. And I know I did my kids at home with it, but it was difficult by me working and being a single parent. It's nice to know that you have teachers that are in churches already who retired or may still be teachers that are willing to do classes besides Sunday school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to use every form of ways to get it out, to get our information out, and to know that we are strong fighting people, to know that we had a religion, to know that hoodoo, obeah, voodoo, these are not evil things have been taught. Now, I don't expect the churches to teach that part. That part can be done at home. But the other stuff about all the other Black people other than Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, that did great things for this country needs to be taught to our children. I myself, every time I find a reel on TikTok or Instagram, I send it to my grandchildren. That's Black History. I send it to their messages. I send it to their messages, and I encourage them during Black History Month to pick one of those people that's little known by everybody else that had great accomplishments.
Yeah, but Sister Toni, can I chime in for a minute? I want to
Yeah.
piggyback off what Divine Prince said earlier, which I thought was very, very important. We do have the ATRs at our internet. We have teachers. We have leaders who assure us the way. The ATRs at this point in time in 2025, I believe, is a very welcoming tool that we can have in our back pocket to fight oppression, suppression, racism, or what have you, or even just to have personal protection within your personal space. Because what you're doing, you're uplifting your ancestors, you're uplifting some systems that they may call magic, but it does have healing properties within it. And on top of that, there are small collectives that you can join and be a part of as a group that just to help strengthen you, to let you know you're not just moving in this world as a solo individual. Because there is a new awakening. People are leaving the church system, the British-based church system, the Catholic church system, and all those things. And the ATRs are there to help us as a pick-me-up. I want to put that on the table also.
Yes, yes.
Totally agree.
Totally agree. But we're going to have to do something to fight against this regime that we have right now, and that they are planning to continue on even after Trump is out of office.
But it's storytelling, and that's something that we always done. I feel like everybody talk about marketing and how the power of the word of mouth is more powerful than any other marketing tool. I think we should just start doing research and start opening our mouths, as we do here, of course, in this space. Encourage everybody else that's listening and in other communities to do the same. Get with other people that have similar like minds. Come up with different ideas. We're very creative people, very intuitive people. So they can't. We are the influence on the world for a reason. Our culture is an influence on the world for a reason. We need to utilize it as something that can actually protect us and hold on to what is ours. So I believe we can do that.
Yes. Josh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say their greatest weapon against us right now is apathy. The ability to get you to not care, to get you to not participate, to get you to not want to hear or talk about it or get involved in it or vote about it. Their greatest tool in our community right now is our own apathy.
Ooh, good point. Yes, because to reflect on what you're saying, Divine Prince, if we have a ceremony or if we do an event and we open it to the general public or some of our friends online, then once the day the event is there, we see who shows up. And it's just apathy, as you say. The word is out, the information been packaged in a nice package, but now is the day of the event where there you need boots on the ground support. It just don't show up. And that's another form of apathy that can make one start losing their way. When you're looking for additional help, you're looking for bonding, you're looking for friends, you're looking for family to support alternative methods out there. And when apathy shows up, it really turns the tide and make you lose hope and faith in something that you're trying to move forward in.
Yes, that's true. And I'm finding out more and more that individual white people are really scared that black people could do, are really scared with what black people could do with voodoo and voodoo. I have gotten to the practice of going on TikTok and antagonizing the maggots, those that follow Trump, with their comments. And after going back and forth for them for a while, I'll say, I ain't got time for you. I'm just going to put a curse on you right now. I know where you live. I seen your Facebook page. And they never come back and comment after that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I'm done. They go and see your Facebook page. One of them came back and told the other guy, she from New Orleans. I didn't get another comment after that.
Yeah, before we close out, let me give you a true story that was ran down to me this morning. I have family still living in the lower ninth ward. So what they are doing, they was going from house to house in the lower ninth ward doing an actual house search. So one of my relatives, when they woke them up 12 o'clock midnight to do the search in a particular house looking for this guy, Derek Grove, whatever his name is.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, when they came in the house, they saw her ancestor altar. And she said you should have seen him doing quick peeps and getting up out of that house. Of course, he wasn't there, but the mere fact she had an ancestor altar and she had icons there, it really shook some of these police people that came within the house. And that was ran down to me this morning. And I wanted to share that our ATRs are protecting us even when we don't even know it.
That's true. That is very true. I've had that happen to me with police and paramedics not wanting to be inside my house because of all the African masks in my altar that I have. I literally look for them to see how they're going to respond. And it doesn't matter whether they black or white, they have gotten out of my house.
Yeah, Sister Toni, let me give you a clap for that, please, because you have the mask, you have symmetry, you have symbolic of things you believe in, and that is important to show, not just talk about it, show it and be about it. And I respect you for that.
Oh yeah, everybody say my house look like a museum, an African museum.
Yes.
Yes,
Every
indeed.
inch of my walls, and every surface I have, I literally cannot put anything else on any flat surface I have because it's full of African statues. I got African instruments, all of that. I live it. My decor is African. My whole house is kente cloth and African pictures. And I mean, you have to see it. One day we'll have a meeting over here.
Well, that brings smiles to the ancestors, right?
Oh yeah, I got to keep them ancestors smiling.
Yeah, that's good, Sister Toni. Yeah.
Well, we come to the end of our show, and I want to turn it over to Elder Reggie to close us out with the information on International Voodoo Day. And also, I really wish that more people listening would join the panel. Just come in live. It's no question is a dumb question. If you want to come in and speak and say your experiences, join us on the panel. You don't have to do it every night, but every now and then we like to see some other people on the panel discussing. So, Elder Reggie, can you tell us out the information?
Yes, Sister Toni. I want to always give thanks to Divine Prince for hosting such a powerful show. I give thanks for Brother Josh. We always bring in He brings in the indigenous medicine, but he always brings in other points of view that open our eyes up, and I like that. And of course, Sister Toni, we appreciate your energy. You're a powerhouse, and you're also very knowledgeable, and we appreciate that. And so with that being said, we just want to give the collective audience a small sample size of the type of energy that New Orleans are bringing right now. And New Orleans International Voodoo is one organization that is housing an impact in the city and hopefully the world as we continue to build. And we would like you to be a part of that. With that, I'd like to close out and say, tentative date for our next year ritual is around May 23rd, 24th, respectively in 2026. Plan accordingly, mark your calendars, get your things in order so you can come out and visit the city of New Orleans, see some of the people that you hear talking on the show every night, and let's become a family and grow as a unit with New Orleans International Voodoo Day. With that being said, thanks everyone. Ashe, ashe, asheo.
Good night, everyone.
AYIBOBO.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your shit. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner away. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? sound, it's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.